Hello again, welcome to another episode, and it's Stephen's turn yet again to come up with the topic, and it's a really short, punchy title, and it's just going to be called Chasing the New. So hit me with it, Stephen. What do you mean by that?
Hi everyone. Hi Oliver. Yes, chasing the new. Well, it's been quite interesting the last sort of 6 months, really. And one of the things that keeps coming back and back again to me is a lot of companies are spending a lot of money on trying to attract new customers into their business. However, what this means is, in many cases, the existing customer base and client base, I think, is being neglected somewhat. And one of my challenges is to communicate, let's focus on the existing customer base and client base. Let's make sure we get that service and quality right first. Yes, we've got to have new, and new has always got to be part of the proposition, part of the strategy. But if we lose our existing base because we're not giving it enough time and attention, we're not giving a quality service, we're not thinking about, their needs and what's important to them, I think we're in danger of losing our headway. What do you think, Oliver?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. That's why I sort of bit your hand off when you suggested it as a topic because it's something that I'm noticing at a potentially different level. In that I've got a few clients who are either directly or indirectly involved in some sales of companies, and I think this sometimes can lead to what this issue is because for them it is about the turnover. So some the companies I'm dealing with are sort of into software and tech and so forth, and they're talking about certain numbers of times of revenue, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, 10 times revenue. So they're just chasing the turnover in effect, chasing the client numbers, but also there's a fear that if you have a small number of high value clients, then that's going to be held against you as well. So obviously the risk is higher for the potential buyer. So whilst it's possibly not specifically what you're talking about, I can maybe see that there is an undercurrent where it is maybe encouraged, or maybe it's something that you innately look to do is just chase those high numbers to increase that turnover and increase the spread. But you're absolutely right. What you potentially risk is losing those customers who think, well, Hannah, why aren't I getting that deal? And I've seen a couple of clients who have had to deal with some messy areas because their new client has spoken to one of their old standing clients, and the client's sort of on the phone saying, hang on a minute, you don't know that I know Bob. Bob's just told me what you've offered, Bob. Why am I not getting Bob's rates? Why am I, I've been a client of yours for 10 years, but I've never had that. What's going on? And I just think that in their environment, and maybe it's the same for you, people just aren't thinking about the bigger picture. It's kind of like reactive, chasing the numbers. So yeah, it does. It does. It's not something before the call I'd given huge a thought of in that context, but you're absolutely right. It's a growing trend. What are the examples that you're seeing? Is it linked to similar things like aiming to sell, increasing the value of the business, or is it slightly different? What are you coming across?
I think it links directly into investment in terms of investing in the people. And what I mean by that is it's about to deliver a better service or a quality service and meeting the needs of your current client base. There needs to be some investment in your people in terms of the service that they're delivering. So I think that's one element. So the investment of people to be able to deliver the quality service. And I think the second part to it is sometimes with technology, what we sometimes believe with technology is it's about newness all the time. And in that respect, I think sometimes we forget some of the well tried and tested processes and systems that we've used very well in the past. Because of technology, sometimes they get left behind. And we think because of technologies, everything's about the new, the new, the new, the new. And my challenge is I don't think it is about one. It's how you balance the two. It's about how you balance methods from yesterday year and how you balance the new methods to deliver the quality service. And I just think we get what we get is we almost get embroiled in this thing around because it's new technology, then that's what we need to move to, and
Mm.
everything needs to be like that. And I'll just give you an example. So, there's been a lot of chat in the media just recently about, about ChatGPT and how it's going to affect the future. But everyone's forgetting that actually it's not one or the other, it's a mixture of both. I think what will happen is that based on time, you will use, AI for one thing, but you might not use it for something else. It's a balance. And I think that's, there's just a few examples, Oliver, and where I think where we get confused, I think, that actually it's one thing. And I'm always saying, a little bit like in the late 90s, when the internet, the birth of the internet, is starting to grow, there was this real fear that actually that will be the only way to do business now. And actually, we now know, you know, you know, 2 decades on, that actually it's not about one way. It's about a balance. It's about having more than one channel to market. It's about being agile. It's about being flexible. It's about, yes, new ideas, but it's also about how you merge the experience and knowledge with that. So yeah, so that's how I see it, Oliver.
Yeah, that's really it's interested me as well because I won't name the company, but there's a local service I use in Norwich, and they've just moved their system over to something quite new and whizzy for booking and maintaining appointments and things like that. But they didn't realise that one of the booking systems had a name associated to it. So when it got texted out, that name would come up. And that name, that text beforehand would always come from the company with their name on it, and it was a trusted number, so you would get this reminder that you had your appointment. Now, I tend to be all right with remembering appointments, but there's plenty of people who aren't. Suddenly, this new system came in, and let's just say that it was called the system's name. So we'll say it was called Joe Blogs app. So you got the text through from Joe Blogs app, but that I don't know who Joe Blogs app is. I've never seen that before. I didn't even bother reading it because it's potentially spam. Delete. And they had a short-term problem, but they had a whole load of people who needed those reminders, not getting them because they thought they were spam and were just deleting those texts or weren't even opening them. And they just hadn't thought about it. And they explained to me that, we didn't know that's how it was going to be received by the client. How do you not know what the user's experience is going to be? How are you in a situation where you spent probably quite a lot of money with a system and you don't know how it's going to impact your clients, like your lifeblood, the people that you rely on? Now, this is easily overcome, I'm sure, and it's a short-term problem, but it doesn't look good on the company. And all they needed to do was send out a message with the old number just before it was turned off saying this will be what you'll have. And that would have fixed the problem. Not everyone had got it, maybe, but it would have fixed the problem. But I just couldn't quite believe the level of reactive approach to what they were doing. They're not a client of mine. I just use their service. But I was immediately thinking, who makes these decisions? And then I wondered, I wonder how many people are now just doing that, just living day by day, making decisions based on the now, and they're not actually planning forward. There's no strategy. They're not thinking of the consequences. And when you see stuff in the news and information like AI and stuff coming out, there's just an immediate knee-jerk reaction. I mean, I feel that AI is going to have big implications on everything, but people will react. They'll respond. They'll adapt. They'll change. It isn't, when you first hear about something that's going to change the world, it's quite exciting, scary, and imminent, but we don't just sit there waiting for it to happen. As it starts happening, people start planning and dealing with it, don't they? But it is a worry that we are reactive, and I think that's what I found was really interesting about what you've said about it, is how do we start returning to a situation where we start thinking about the consequences, do that extra stuff that doesn't immediately bring in revenue, like you said, training your staff, like upselling to your existing client base rather than chasing new clients when you've got existing clients who already like you and are willing to buy more from you. I can think of a guy I know really well, Matt Sykes, is an excellent sales trainer and salesman. He would be having kittens over this sort of chasing just new business and not looking to massage and look after your existing base, because, yeah, it's all about looking after them because they already buy from you. So find other ways to sell to them and sell them stuff they need. Don't just sell them stuff they don't want. So yeah, that's for me. What I'm hearing really is just a very reactive business culture that potentially is growing. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And that word reactive, is always, it's on one hand, it's important because you want to be flexible and you want to be able to react to the market. But on the other hand, overreacting is sometimes based on not thinking far enough forward and not planning. So I think this all directly links into the planning side of it, and also understanding that our customers' needs will change of our existing base. And we need to constantly be making sure that we are in contact with them, and then it falls into communication. How frequently are we communicating with them? I'm not talking about spanning them and giving them information that they don't want, but real communication where you're really getting into the hearts and minds. And I guess it falls into that category of how much time are we spending and investing in that customer base that's already there, that we know is tried and tested. They trust us, they believe us. How much time are we spending, really understanding their journey now, which again will change, and mapping that out. A customer that's been with you for 5 years will be in a different situation now. So, do you know that situation? Can you associate with that? Can you understand it? How has that changed their needs? And I do think that it is a trend. I really do think it's a trend, the reactive trend, because everything around us is about new, it's about fresh, it's about tech, and which sometimes I think it blurs our vision. I read something yesterday which was really quite interesting, and it was saying that you can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you feel that the light's there, but you'll only see the light if you continue going. And I think what happens sometimes, a lot of this newness, going after new, thinking that technology is the only way to keep pushing things forward, is because we're constantly chasing something. And I think sometimes we just got to be a bit more patient. And I have a product called Now, Next, Later. And I think so many of us as humans within our working environment, within our families, we concentrate so much on the now that we don't consider the next and later. And I don't know whether that's something to do with COVID, hitting, where it's made us kind of want to live in the moment all the time and want instant gratification, want everything to be right here, right now. And I do think that actually that planning has probably taken a bit of a back seat, and we don't think far enough forward. And because we don't think far enough forward, we trip up on things. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, one of my private clients, and they were basically saying, there hasn't been enough thought put into what I'm now going to be doing. And because of that, I'm now confused because enough time hasn't been spent thinking about, well, what does this look like for me? How would I be able to deliver it in that time? And so forth and so forth. And it did make me think that actually we don't spend enough time planning. And I bet, Oliver, some of this comes from as well, is we don't necessarily think we've got the time. And because, again, we want to react quickly to something and get the instant win, we're not really planning it through.
Yeah, 100. I'm glad you said that bit, because that was the bit that was coming through to me, that I was sort of itching to get out there, is this myth that we don't have enough time. I've never ever met someone who can prove to me that that is the case. What we do not do is use our time very effectively. So, for example, the tiniest little things that I talk to my clients about, but so often they've got their notifications turned on for stuff. And they're like, well, how difference is that going to make? I need to know about these emails. Do you? Do you need to know about those emails at the exact time? So you in the middle of doing that great piece of work, notification comes up about email, WhatsApp, whatever it is, and suddenly that's become the number one priority. By default, that's become the priority because it's grabbed your attention, but you were in a flow, you're doing well. Now, do we think that if any of those messages were that important, that people wouldn't finally do the old-fashioned thing and ring you or come to your desk if you work in the same office? But the likelihood is that half an hour, 45 minutes or an hour that you wait to read those emails isn't going to kill you. It really isn't. And you can start getting organized. You can start working out. You can also start managing people's, horrible word coming, expectations by not responding to things as soon as you get to them and things like that. So something as straightforward as notifications can also be feeding this want everything now things, because people are used to getting answers straight away. They're also used to checking things straight away. But also that is such a disorganized way of being. And what I get my clients to do is pick 3 to 5 times a day where they will go into these various platforms, whether it be email or messaging or something like that, and they will give themselves rigid 15-ish to half an hour minute windows. Let's say first time they get in, then middle of the morning, then just before lunch, then just after lunch, and then just in the afternoon. That's when they go. In between then is uninterrupted time where they do stuff and they can be more present. And they can think about things that need to be done, so stuff that's already happened that they need to act on, or things that they can plan for. And it's amazing the difference that one little technique can make to someone, because they feel they haven't got enough time. Well, if you've got a notification for every single bloody email that comes through, including the ones you don't need to do anything about, or the spammy ones, but it's distracted you. So that flow has suddenly meant that piece of work has been stopped 2 minutes in, and then you get going again perhaps, and then 3 minutes later another notification comes in. So it's this myth we tell ourselves first and foremost that we don't have enough time, because that's exactly what I think I'm hearing from you these companies are doing, is they just don't have time for the nice stuff as they see it. It's not the nice stuff, it's the essential stuff, but they'll see it as the nice stuff because it doesn't have an immediate tangible bottom line consequence, they think, because there isn't a sale at the end of it. Firms who deal with pay, is it paid work you're doing? Paid work versus non-paid work. There is a massive bias now towards making sure that the work you're doing is paid. Now, what impact is that having on your relationship with your clients? Well, I can tell you one thing they're not doing. They're not speaking to you all the time. When you're calling, they're nervous about the clock. They don't want to give you all the full information. So the efficiencies that come out of that actually are questionable, because you're not getting the full picture. People don't want to be talking to you. They don't want to be on the clock for paying. And the value that comes from these relationships when you don't charge just on the clock, and the extra potential business that you upsell from that client or you potentially get referred increases because they want to have a chat with you. But right now, this whole every time we're on the clock we charge, are you doing chargeable work, is a horrible thing that we've got into. I get why they do it, because it looks great on paper in the bottom line, and they always want to be increasing, especially if you've got equity partners. They want good profits and things like that, but they also want to be able to share it. I get it, I do. I'm not an idiot. But the implications and damage that could have in the future are not being considered. And that is a worry, that it's coming in all angles at the moment, that you just aren't thinking, or not even giving consideration to what that means. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess it flies in the face, isn't it, of quality service. So what we're talking about here is giving a a value service, a service where the client, the customer is getting value, and that value is about the way that you treat them, and the way in which you build that relationship, the way that you build that partnership, the way that you collaborate. It's about the investment in the time in that. So we started the conversation around chasing the new, but what this all is about is giving a quality service to your existing customer base and continuing to nurture, support that service, and provide the quality. And in many cases, it's not about the quantity; it's about the quality, and that's what we're really getting at, the nurture.
Yeah,
And that even might mean you change your prices. Conversation for another day. But that
yeah.
might mean that actually, you look at value pricing, because that might be the way in which you can offer a better quality service and focus more on your current client base.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's really. Hopefully, this episode is it's just going to get people thinking. You don't have to agree with us, but you just need to think about it. If you're not considering this one way or the other, then that's bad. You definitely need to think about it. Now, if you come out the other end thinking, no, we were right, great, because you've done a review. But if you aren't even reviewing it, then I think you might have problems. And I think they're not that far around the corner. When life possibly gets a little tougher, that's when this stuff pays forward. And you don't know what's around the corner, do you? So, no, I think that's a really, really good one. So, for me, we've just gone over the 20-minute mark. So, I feel that's a great time to wrap up. Is there any final thoughts you have, Stephen? Any final words?
Yeah, I would just say anyone listening to this podcast today, what I would say is have a review of your business, think about how you're treating your current client base, and are you getting enough out of them, and are you in a real partnership and collaboration?
Great. Yeah, no, that's a really good way to end it, and certainly some good questions to think about. So, until the next episode, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye.